And we continue at 1:06 in the afternoon on the John Phillips Show. Mr. Randy Wang's in Culver City.
John, in response to the threat of the federal government possibly sending in the National Guard to clean up Oakland, Oakland City Councilwoman Carol Fife says, you don't need to do that. Just give us the money.
We're looking for a nighttime metro unit in the downtown area. Fund that. We're looking for ambassadors throughout the entire city, particularly our business districts. Fund that.
Yeah, no soup for you.
Just fund some more ambassadors for us, please.
That'll solve the problem. 800-222-5222 is the telephone number. 1-800-222-5222. Not long ago, a video went up on social media in the Pacific Palisades showing squatters taking over areas where homes used to sit. Fire victims have, of course, had to flee the area. They have to live somewhere else because the area is not safe to live in and there are no homes left in the fire-affected areas. So a lot of those pieces of property are sitting empty. Well, the homeless are aware of that. Squatters are aware of that. And some of them decided to move in. After that video was posted on social media, it went all over the place. And suddenly the alarm bells started going off. Oh, my God, we better do something about this. Otherwise, you're going to have to try to evict someone who's now claiming that your former home is now their current home. And they don't plan on leaving anytime soon. Joining us to talk about this is the man who rang those alarm bells. You can follow him on X at Luke Melichor 307. That's spelled Melchior, who is the owner at Melichor Construction. Luke Melichor, welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me on. Great to be with you guys.
Well, thanks so much for stopping by. So you were the one that tipped off the world that squatting is going on in Pacific Palisades.
Yeah, and I do have to give you one minor correction. When I made that video, that was actually in Altadena. I have heard reports in both areas, but that specific video was over in Altadena.
And you saw it with your own two eyes and put it on social media.
I saw it. I talked to the neighbors who were in distress. I talked to the sheriff's department who came by. All of them confirmed that, yeah, these are squatters. But what was interesting was to see then that the sheriff's department came out with a public statement denying it. So who knows what's going on there?
That's the same thing that happened with the water and the fire hydrants. When the fires were actually burning, and I think it was Rick Caruso who went on Fox 11 and said, hey, my kids live here, and the firefighters are here, and they're telling me there's no water in the fire hydrants. That was immediately labeled as disinformation and fake news, and we were told that that wasn't, in fact, the case, and they officially denied it. But then it turned out, of course, he was telling the truth, and the people who were there fighting the fires were his source, and they were the ones who said there's no water in the fire hydrant. It just seems like they have the belief that if they claim something is not true, it doesn't matter what the truth is.
Yeah, and I thought it was particularly funny because in their statement that they put out, they said, well, you know, this is really just a civil dispute. And I thought, well, that's the problem in California. Every squatter situation is a civil dispute. These people don't have rights to protect their properties, and so then they have to go through the court system to work out an eviction, like you just mentioned. And it now has become a civil matter instead of a criminal matter. So it was very clever the way they worded that, but it is a real issue.
And what are homeowners doing who are keeping the squatters out? Is there something you can do that would be effective at making sure you're not a victim of this?
You can. You have to go down to your local sheriff's department or police department, and you actually have to file a record with them that gives them permission to enforce a trespass. You have to then put fencing and signage on your property that says no trespassing. But the problem is you basically have to establish a formal record that no one belongs on your property other than an actual tenant or yourselves, so that they can enforce anybody else who might be there.
That's so stupid because these people used to live there, but they can't live there anymore because the homes burned down. Obviously, the squatters are not supposed to be there, yet you still have to go through a formal process to make the obvious something that's on the record with the government.
Well, and you're really combating what would be a false record, and that's how squatters get away with this stuff. So all of these people are absent from their properties. You can go, and I've verified this, you can go online and request a driver's license to an address where you don't live with no proof of residency, and they'll send it as long as you're not requesting a real ID, say a regular ID or a driver's license. You can get that with no proof of residency at the location. So these people who are absent, someone could theoretically order a driver's license to their address, and now they have a claim that they belong there. Or likewise, they could forge a lease, produce some other type of false document, and now they have a record that, again, has to be disputed in court. It's ridiculous.
You're in these areas all the time. You see what's going on in real time. The mayor of Los Angeles, Karen Bass, and others have said that they're moving heaven and earth to make it as easy as pie to get the permits to rebuild, and all of this is going to happen lickety-split. What's the reality?
No, that's false. They've made very few amendments to their process. There are permits being issued, but if you'll notice, if you drive through Pacific Palisades, they're almost all centralized on Sunset, and I genuinely believe that's for optics, so that when you drive through town, it looks like construction is happening, and there is some. But much more broadly, construction isn't happening quickly. Permits are not being issued quickly. All kinds of hoops to jump through with the planning department. They just haven't streamlined the process. And Karen Bass publicly has made very little comment on it in about 70 days or so. Her Instagram is basically empty of any comment. So I don't think she's doing much at all.
Do you think a year from now homes will be rebuilt there, or do you think we're looking at a lot longer than that?
You might be lucky to see one or two, but the reality is we're looking at about a 15 to 20-year recovery. Fewer than 100 permits have been issued, I think significantly fewer. LA doesn't give any kind of a public dashboard that you can go see real-time data, but I'd say by all accounts, fewer than 100 have been issued. It's been 8 months. So if we stay on pace, it's really going to take a long time, but I think realistically 15 to 20 years.
When you speak with homeowners who lived in these affected areas, whether it be Altadena, Pacific Palisades, Malibu, whatever, are they coming back? Do they plan on coming back, or are they at this point defeated and they're looking to sell and get out, cut their losses, and just move on with their lives somewhere else?
You get a mixed bag of people. I think everybody would like to stay, but as they battle it out with insurance, and specifically the California Fair Plan, which is garbage, but as they battle it out and realize that they're underfunded or it's going to be a really difficult thing to get the funding, they're more inclined to move. In Pacific Palisades, you're dealing with a demographic where some of those people, a lot of them have multiple properties or have another place to go. So I would think that you'll see a lot of those change hands. In Altadena, this is all people have, their properties, that they lost. So they're really fighting tooth and nail to rebuild. But there was a study a few years ago, a federal study, where they examined natural disasters, whether it be fires, hurricanes, what have you. And they found that 90% of residents who didn't commence rebuilding within 1 year ended up leaving the area and moving into another community.
When these areas are rebuilt, whenever that happens to be, do you think they will be single-family neighborhoods like they were before, or do you think we're going to be looking at something entirely different?
In Pacific Palisades, yes, and that's just because there's been so much public outcry. They really pushed through SB 549 quickly. That was within the last month or two, which would have allowed the county to purchase up some of these fire damaged lots and turn them into low income housing. Well, there was such an outrage about it that they ended up pausing it. We're still looking for that to resurface. It will. They put a pause on that. They also paused SB 9, which made it very easy to convert these properties into multifamilies. So in Pacific Palisades, at least things have kind of been put on the back burner. In Altadena, though, I see it already. Many of the plans that are being approved are already converting to multifamily housing. There's a lot more investors investing into that area, buying about, anywhere from 5 to 10 properties at a time. So I think the community of Altadena is going to be totally different, and Pacific Palisades, maybe just because people are more affluent and connected, they're fighting it much harder.
You talk to people who live in those San Gabriel Valley communities, those communities right up against the mountains out there, whether it be Altadena, Pasadena, Monrovia, whatever. A lot of them tell me the same thing, which is that homes in their neighborhoods are being purchased by foreign investors that are just parking money, whether they're from China, Saudi Arabia, Russia, wherever. A lot of foreign investors look at California real estate as a very safe way to park their money, and they gobble up these homes, and frequently they'll just let them sit empty because they don't care. They just need to own the home. They don't plan on living there. Their kids aren't living there. They just need to own it. Are you seeing any of that going on in either Altadena or Pacific Palisades?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. I made a video about this as well. You're seeing it, again, more so in Altadena, but it is a very high percentage of foreign investors. I actually just got a report today from a broker I know, so I have all of the land purchase data since the fires, and I'm going through it. I'll be making a video about that. But yes, you are seeing foreign investment, and specifically from China. And this is a well-known issue. They're purchasing these properties with cash. The funds are often laundered. This isn't a conspiracy theory. There's been multiple federal investments or investigations specifically into Los Angeles where they're finding these underground criminal operations where, people have all kinds of shell companies and are laundering money for the cartels through cryptocurrencies. And then what they like to do is park that money in real estate here in California. So it is a big problem, and that is the majority of who is buying these properties.
Are the people who used to live there aware of what's going on in terms of who's buying these properties?
I don't think they are, but I'm really trying to sound the horn. Now, there's no legal mechanism to prevent it as of right now, but I do think it's something that people should be aware of.
When you talk to them, do you get the idea that the powers that be, and by that I mean the government, the insurance companies, whatever, are trying to give these people a fair shake, many of the contractors, or do you get the impression that everyone and their brother is trying to take advantage of them?
No, I don't get that. I don't get that impression at all. I think it varies from insurance carrier to carrier. So some are fantastic, others are absolutely terrible. Like I said, I mentioned the California Fair Plan. That's the absolute worst of them. But in general, I think they are trying to help people rebuild. Even the county and the city, I think, are making an honest effort to help people get back to their homes. We're just dealing with a level of incompetence and bureaucracy that makes it challenging for people. And those systems have been in place for a long time.
Are there any insurance companies specifically that you've seen who you say to yourself, okay, they're trying to be as fair as possible. They're trying to abide by what's in the contract. I can do business with these people. And I asked that question. I was on vacation some months ago, and I spoke to a woman who was a claims adjuster, and she said to me, and she's not dealing with these fire victims, she's dealing with people with other issues in other states. She said that State Farm was the worst to work with and that Travelers was the best to work with. Yeah,
I've seen the same thing with State Farm. Safeco is the one that comes to mind that's been really good that I've seen. There's some other higher end ones that you see more over in like Pacific Palisades, like Chubb's and others, but I think Safeco has been pretty good.
One of the things about incidents like this, fires like this, natural disasters, whatever the case may be, when it happens, it's the biggest news in the world, and all the national morning shows are here. Everyone's paying attention to what's going on. But when the actual work of getting things back together begins, and when these people are trying to put their lives back together, everyone moves on to something else, and people just stop paying attention. How much are these people suffering right now still, many, many, many months separated between now and the fires?
Oh, they're suffering, and the clock is ticking because each one of them, only has a certain amount of time or a certain budget for temporary housing. So every day that goes by that they're rebuilding or that they haven't moved back into their property, the clock is ticking against them. And then just the emotional turmoil that they're going through, and I see the highs and lows, but for instance, we started a project probably 3 weeks ago. And the first time the homeowner visited the site after, being away for months and seeing that we were actually rebuilding and making progress, she just broke down into tears. So I think they're all carrying a huge emotional weight. And once you get going, you can start to see it's cathartic. They start to see like, okay, I can return home.
Yeah, I mean, you think about some natural disasters where, let's just say there's an earthquake and you need to rebuild your house because it's been red tagged by the county. Okay, well, you can go in and you can get your clothes, you can get the baby pictures, you can get whatever. If your home burns down in a fire, you've lost everything down to your toothbrush.
Yeah, and I think one of the issues that nobody thinks about, because it's always going to happen to somebody else, many of these people didn't leave with their birth certificates, their driver's license, social security numbers, contracts that were important. So it goes far beyond just losing their homes. I mean, they literally lost everything, and it's like starting over.
Luke Melichor, owner at Melichor Construction, he posts videos from the fire areas on a regular basis where he keeps you updated on what's going on down there, what's being reported in the news that's true, what's being reported that's not true, and most importantly, what he's seeing with his own eyes and what he's hearing with his own ears while he's down there. You can follow him on X at Luke Melichor. That's spelled Melchior 307. That's Luke Melichor 307 on X. Luke, thank you so much for stopping by, and thank you so much for the work that you do.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. Take care.
If you'd like to email the show, you can do so at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. That's johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. And Randy, now that we've hit the halfway point of today's show, if you want to continue listening to us after we sign off at 3, that's easy to do.
Maybe you want to hear yesterday as we covered Pamela Price's airing of the grievances on a podcast.
I've been bipped several times.
Search for The John Phillips Show wherever you get your podcasts, whether it's the Apple Podcast app, iHeart, Spotify.
Quite frankly.
Search for The John Phillips Show. Hit subscribe. You can download all the episodes.
She called me a crime boss.
800-222-5222 is the telephone number, 1-800-222-5222. Well, this weekend, Randy, I'm going to Lake Arrowhead. A cousin of mine just bought a home out there, and he's hosting a housewarming party. And I asked him, who's your insurance carrier on a home at the lake? And he said the only one who would sell him a policy was the California Fair Plan.
Uh-oh.
I talked to another friend who lives in a condo, not in a fire zone, in the city of Palm Springs. He's on the second floor. The neighbor on the first floor sold. Someone new bought it. He met the neighbor for the first time. The neighbor said, guess what? I'm on the California Fair Plan. No one would sell him an insurance policy for a condo that's not in a fire zone.
Well, that's not surprising. According to research from CBS News in Sacramento, 55% of all the policies written by the Fair Plan are in low wildfire risk areas.
Well, I guess in Lake Arrowhead, I understand because that's an area that's in extreme fire risk. But if you're in a condo in the flats, how in the world does that property end up on the FAIR plan?
Well, who's the insurance commissioner?
That's true.
I'm very kind of sketchy.
Well, we may be overhauling the way we regulate the insurance industry in California, and Randy, it might be going to the ballot for a vote of the people.
There is a new measure that may be heading to the ballot that could completely overhaul Proposition 103, the ballot initiative passed back in the 80s that created the insurance commissioner. For more, here is ABC 10 in Sacramento.
The California insurance market could change after a new ballot initiative filed this week looks to repeal Proposition 103. ABC 10's Jeannie Nguyen is here to...
Wait, so the insurance companies can do whatever they want like in Florida? Because that doesn't work either.
Well, at least in Florida you can buy it. Here you can't even buy it, even for an apartment or condo, rather.
There are people in Florida who are trying to sell their condos that no one will buy because the insurance is too expensive, so they're stuck.
Well, let me tell you, if I'm trying to buy a property here and the realtor says you can only buy insurance from the California FAIR Plan, I think I move on.
ABC 10's Jeannie Nguyen is here to explain what this could mean for homeowners and also how opponents are responding to all of this. Jeannie?
Alex, Prop 103 was initially passed in 1988, and its goal was to lower the cost of insurance for consumers and hold insurance companies accountable. But now a new ballot measure has been filed to repeal Prop 103, citing it is out of date and changes need to be made in order to make insurance sustainable and affordable in the state.
Wait, isn't that everything that Ricardo Lara just said he did over the last 3 years that hasn't actually gotten them to write any new policies?
Well, Ricardo Lara also said that if we give him what he wants, that people would all get off the FAIR Plan. Now the FAIR Plan is bigger than it's ever been.
To make it a place that carriers want to come and write business and compete.
This is what insurance experts believe is the intention behind this new...
Boy, this Carl Sussman will go on any interview possible if it's about insurance. It's like how if it's about politics, every channel gets Jessica Levinson. When it's about insurance, every channel in the state of California calls Carl Sussman.
This is what insurance experts believe is the intention behind this new proposed ballot initiative. Submitted to the state on Monday, the California Insurance Market Reform Act of 2026 sets to repeal Proposition 103. Originally passed by voters in 1988, its goal was to keep insurance costs low and hold insurance companies accountable. But with this proposal, it would include major provisions like making the insurance commissioner an appointed position.
Oh, boy.
Well, Ricardo Lara isn't going to like that, but I think Ricardo Lara is done with politics.
Ricardo Lara has made this position so toxic, the organizers of this initiative want the next governor to appoint the insurance commissioner.
Well, if you can't beat him at the ballot box, I guess this is a way to make it happen.
Well, at least Ricardo was defiant about all of these changes that he says he put his career on the line for.
I may be criticized and dragged through the mud for it and get my wig snatched, as the gay guys say.
That was the first time I ever heard that phrase.
Rather than elected.
The insurance commissioner would be appointed by the governor and still have to be approved by the Senate. And this is my favorite part, they have to have at least 10 years of insurance experience.
Okay, I like that part.
Well, in theory, they'd know something, but don't count on it because think about who the next governor could be.
But we elected Ricardo Lara to this position in 2018 and again in 2022, a man that had zero experience in the insurance industry, but we had to elect him because he'd be the first openly gay statewide official, and that's what matters.
Who do you think Katie Porter would appoint?
I'm going to refrain from answering that question.
I appreciate that.
Other changes would include requiring wildfire mapping to be updated every 3 years, protecting consumers and restoring market competition, and creating a modern process when it comes to reinsurance costs and mitigation credits.
It's strength.
This is the one thing that drives me crazy about insurance. The insurance companies will tell you the reason insurance is so expensive is because their insurance is expensive. It's a house of cards. The fact that there's something called reinsurance tells you everything you need to know about this industry.
I've got to tell you, every time I get a letter in the mail saying, here's your bill, we're re-upping you, I'm surprised. I just assume I'm going to get dropped.
And creating a modern process when it comes to reinsurance costs and mitigation credits.
It strengthens a part of Proposition 103 with regard to timelines. Timeline within Proposition 103 for when an insurance company wants to make a change to a product, whether it be a discount or a guideline for writing or rate, whatever it is supposed to be 60 days.
Harvey Rosenfeld is the author of Prop 103 and founder of Consumer Watchdog. He believes there is no serious campaign behind this ballot measure.
Last thing we need is freeing the insurance companies to get unlimited rate increases.
Wait, that's what they're getting now. You saw what happened to State Farm.
Yeah, it's just Ricardo who's giving it to them.
Adding that Prop 103 is working and it needs to be enforced to protect consumers.
Well, then we need to elect somebody who isn't going to bend over backwards for the industry they're supposed to regulate. But that is the California way. Who's in charge at the CPUC? Gavin Newsom appointees that used to work at PG&E.
Well, and how about this? The favorite to replace Ricardo, Laura, is Mike McGuire.
The prune farmer?
Yep.
There's been some hogwash.
It requires insurance companies to open up their books and justify their rates.
Well, that's what they were supposed to do, but Ricardo Lara said, I'm going to give you that rate hike anyway.
He didn't even show up to the meeting.
Before they take effect. That means they're entitled to any rate that they can show they need. They have to prove it, but they're entitled to it if they can prove it.
This ballot initiative comes after Commissioner Ricardo Lara tried to implement changes through the sustainable insurance strategy. A spokesperson for Lara tells ABC 10 he is focused on getting Californians coverage and that.
How's that working out?
I told you, the condo purchaser is now on the FAIR plan.
And that Prop 103 guarantee.
I mean, if you think about it, when Ricardo Lara gave the insurance companies that control the FAIR plan the ability to pass on the cost to consumers when the FAIR plan goes bankrupt, aren't they now incentivized to write even more policies on the FAIR plan? Because they have less liability on that. They can write policies that are so bad they're against the law.
I'll tell you what's weird. Of those I know, and real estate is starting to slow down in California, of those I know who've purchased homes recently, about half of them have ended up on the FAIR plan.
Sounds about right.
And that Prop 103 guarantees consumers' rights to hold all parties in the rate-making process accountable. He says he is opposed to any effort to take away the rights consumers deserve.
Because this is a new ballot initiative, comments are being accepted through September 10th through the Attorney General's website. We have posted details on our website at abc10.com.
So there's the latest on a possible measure on the ballot that nobody's going to understand.
Let's go to Ed in Ukiah. Ed, hello.
Hey, guys, how are you?
Good.
So, I work in flooring, so I replace an awful lot of floors that are from places that had insurance claims, and I work with a lot of mitigators. I've been in this business since 1994, and I'll tell you, I haven't come across a fire and mold mitigation company that I believe to be reputable or even decent. In fact, recently I had done a job for the gal whose husband was the co-creator of the Muppets out in the Casper out by Fort Bragg area. They've been in her home for 9 months as she's living in a hotel down the street. And given this is an elderly woman with no family nearby, they have no regard or concern for her well-being. They simply bring in as many people as they can and bill this insurance company indiscriminately the largest bill possible. And I've seen these bills upwards of $150,000, $200,000, where a private contractor could have done that same job for a fifth of that or less. So if you want to really address the issue, you need to get an investigative committee that's independent from the state to look into the fraudulent activities of these mitigators, because they really are a really big problem, and it's not even where they're willing to hire accept a private citizen as a client. They don't have regular clients that have individual payment. They're all paid 100% by the insurance companies because no one else would pay those inflated rates. So at a certain point, the buck has to stop somewhere. And, if I'm getting paid 5 times what I should be getting paid, and they're making a profit off of that simply because I know it's insurance and they'll pay it, you can imagine what the rest of that looks like. It's like anything else the government runs. It's absolutely corrupt. It's forward of anything decent.
Well, what's interesting is whenever you hear from the insurance companies and they try to explain why they're not selling policies in California, it's not the homeless encampments that come up first. It's not the fact that we don't clear the brush and we're in extreme fire risk that comes up first. What comes up first every time they talk about it is the cost of rebuilding. And if the cost of rebuilding is being artificially run up because people are making money off of it, then there you go. There's a key problem.
Absolutely. And I can tell you that if there was an investigative committee, or even if you yourself or anybody looked into that, I guarantee you're going to find really quickly every single mitigation company involving fire, water, and mold restoration, every one of them is screwing people and ripping them off because they're allowed to. And apparently there's no regulatory commission monitoring their behavior as being so crooked. It's a huge problem.
All right. Thank you for the call, sir. 800-222-5222 is your telephone number. Let's go to Lawrence in Garden Grove. Lawrence, hello.
Greetings, John and Randy. I'm calling regarding the rat and mouse problem up and down the state. And there's a simple solution that you can pass on to your listeners. Go to YouTube and look up rat and mouse bait made with Jiffy cornbread mix and baking soda. Stir the two components together in equal parts and put it in a couple of little dishes or how many ever you need around your property, and maybe put a little bowl of water out where they can get water too. But it works very effectively, and if they go to YouTube, they can see the gentleman rancher that's running 2 or 3 different videos on this baking soda and Jiffy cornbread mix.
Now, what happens if Hunter Biden moves in next door and he snorts it up?
That's his problem.
Thank you for the call,
It
sir.
won't hurt. It will not, John, it won't hurt people, pets, or other animals.
Just rats. Thanks so much for the call. We've gotten so many emails from this crafty audience of how to kill rats.
They're very proficient at doing that. So if you bought one of those electric vehicles because you say to yourself, okay, not only will I save money on gas, but I'll get to drive in the Diamond Lane too, Randy, that is now ending.
State of California is ending the little decal on EVs that let you into the carpool lane. Fun fact, I never even applied for one because there's not been a day where I've seen the carpool lane moving faster than any of the other lanes on the 405.
Oh, yeah. Well, at the time that you drive home at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, driving from the city to the valley, the 405 is about as clogged as Rosie O'Donnell's arteries.
For more, here's KCRA 3 in Sacramento.
These clean air vehicle decals have marked more than 1 million electric and hybrid cars in California since 2001. The decal allows drivers with clean air vehicles to use carpool lanes with only one person in the car. But that program is set to end at the end of September. Federal legislation is required to extend it, but that hasn't happened.
Yeah, that's not going to happen.
Nope. I wonder if this is people trying to get back at Elon.
Starting October 1st, the decals will no longer be valid. Vehicles will have to meet the occupancy requirements in HOV lanes and pay required tolls or risk facing fines.
Can we just do what Florida's doing and get rid of the carpool lanes altogether?
I like that idea.
KCRA 3.
How much quicker would traffic move if people weren't constantly bobbing in and out of those lanes?
And let's just be honest. The people using the carpool lane, it's not Drew Carey and Mimi and all the other co-workers who are taking cars off the roads. The only people in the carpool lane are people who don't know how to use condoms.
KCRA 3 reached out to the DMV about the change. A spokesperson sent a statement reading in part, "The federal government's decision to eliminate this smart and popular program will hurt hundreds of thousands of California drivers, and these drivers will have to pay the price." California Air Resources Board echoed that, saying in part, clean air vehicle decals are a smart, cost-effective incentive that has played an important role driving the adoption.
Oh, don't tell me about cost-effective coming from California Air Resources Board, the company that the board that extended cap and trade for 20 years. And what's the first thing they did with that money? We're going to give out vouchers for e-bikes.
And then they turned a lot of that money over to the bullet train.
Yep.
Clean and zero-emission vehicles in California. But thanks to the federal government's failure to act, this successful program is coming to an end.
All right, enough with you.
All right, if you have an electric vehicle, you're going to have to sit in traffic with the rest of us.